I have farmed just over half a mirror worth of divines within, of course, Path of Exile's newest league, the Abyssal League, and today I wanted to showcase off one of the methods that I've been using to get myself some of the best exceptional bases within the game, which seem to be very elusive for a lot of people and have netted me a ton of profit by doing this one run. I'm going to go through all of the strategy to be able to do it. If you think that sounds great, make sure to like the video and of course subscribe if you want to see more Path of Exile 2 content. But without further ado, let's dive in to how you manage to do this method in the first place, what you need and what we're aiming to do. So first things first, what we need to do is get ourselves a T16 Waystone. The reason we're doing this is because we need to get high tier bases. The higher the tier of a base, the better the item is going to be when it comes to selling it. Hence why this Desolate Crossbow at level 82 is going to be worth more than a 3-socket Desolate Crossbow at level 80. That is simply because of the fact that a lot of the mods, high tier mods, are high tier mods, which means that in order to get them, they need the item level to be able to roll those high tier mods. So if you've got an item level base, which is 60, you're not going to be able to roll anything of those mods above level 60, which means a lot of the items that you get when they are exceptional throughout the campaign are just not sellable because no one can actually use them to craft upon because they won't get the good mods and the item will be worse than if you were to use just a standard item in the game. With that out of the way, that is what we're after. We want the high tier socketable items such as that or a wand or whatever, as well as actually get ourselves some extremely expensive crafting bases, which we'll go into as well. The way that we do this is getting high tier Waystones. So we'll go into all of the trees and stuff in a bit. But the first thing that we do is get ourselves a T16 Waystone, and there's some specific things that we're actually wanting to do to our Waystones to make it as profitable as possible and get as many potential chances at those exceptional bases. So first things first is we use Orb of Alchemies on every single one of these Waystones, which gives us revives available 2. And so what we're doing then is using Omen of Greater Exaltation to give 2, use an Exalt, and we will use one of these on each one of the actual Waystones, giving them 6 mods each, and you'll see that a lot of these have item rarity on them. The reason we don't want item rarity is because white bases are essentially gonna drop as magics or rares. If you have item rarity, it's gonna drop more rare and magic items and less common items, so normal items within the game. Now then what we do is, because to get rid of the rarity is not to re-roll them or whatever with a Chaos Orb, we actually use an Omen of Chaotic Quantity that grants pack size. You can use an Omen of Monsters or whatever it is, Chaotic Monsters, which gives rare monsters and magic monsters, but to be honest, through testing, the pack size generally works out to be better. But yeah, I mean, it's a toss up between the two. So what we then do is use our Chaos Orbs on each one of these, and we'll just roll them all. As you can see, they all have pack size on them. And so once we got the pack size, this is where we hit the Preserve Vertebrae on each one of these Waystones, hoping for it to become a prefix. And so unfortunately for us, there is only open suffixes. You can only have 3 prefixes on the Waystones, and then the final Waystone is done as well. So you can see all of these are suffixes, which are not the ones that we actually want. Ideally, you'd use a one on the prefix, but you just have to hit and hope with this method, because there's a reason why we do this before using the chaotic, because if you do it before where you do have an open prefix, you can't actually use the Waystone because when you then use the chaotic quantity, it's going to re-roll the abyssal modifier, so it gets rid of it. So you can't do that. So now we just travel to the Well of Souls, open up all of them, and they're all going to be bad modifiers, which is not so good because it's suffix modifiers. And then now what we do is we use the delirium, so guilt, and we are essentially just boosting the pack size on the Waystone. Not only that, you're also going to get delirium on those Waystones, which is also very, very nice, because now that you're getting Delirium on the map, you're going to have increased pack size, which allows you to then farm even more mobs, because not only does it give you pack size, but it also gives you Delirium monsters at the exact same time. So that's always a decent one. Not so many of them, but you know, it's more mobs, which means more potential drops of those commons or normals. And so now what we do is, once we're done with all of those, we then just hit it with a Val Orb, and hoping for a T16. We may not get one in this bunch, and we actually didn't, which kind of sucks. But at the exact same time, you know, sometimes you win, sometimes you don't. But as an example, I think we do actually have some T16s where we did actually win. That one is not a win, and there we go. So this is a T16 that we actually did do. As you can see, pack size, magic monsters, rare monsters, and then natural. We've got the abyssal modifier, but it was a suffix, unfortunately. But that is exactly the process that I do to get my Waystones. Now, with Waystones out of the way, let's jump on over to the map device to see exactly what you need in your maps. So ideally, what we're looking for on our maps is to be able to have either a boss, so long as that you have the Atlas passive, which is organized forces, which means non-irradiated areas with a powerful map boss have +1 level. So it has to be a powerful one. It has to show a map boss actually on there. And then the other one is +1 to monster level is another one as well. So ideally you want one with either a boss or irradiated even, and then you also want to be using the corrupted nexus zone, so cleanse zones that give you +1 to monster level, as that is going to give you with a T16 Waystone with irradiation and +1 from the cleanse is going to give you tier 82. Similarly, if you don't have it irradiated but it has +1 and a boss on it, a powerful map boss, that's also going to give you tier 82, which is what we want, as many of those as possible. But it's difficult to do, as you know, being able to find cleanse zones does take a bit of time, and it's not worth actually grinding all the way to do it. But that doesn't matter, because there's some things that we can get for money when we're actually running around anyway. So with that out of the way, obviously that's how we get tier 82 maps. But when we're on our maps, what are we looking for? Well, obviously now we have the ability to use Waystones, or at least Precursor Tablets on our Waystone in itself. And so what we're searching for is high quantity of items found when we're actually going into the Precursor Tablets that we're using on the map. This gives us increased quantity, so every one of the mobs that we're taking out with it is going to give us more potential drops from that monster. And so that gives us more loot on the ground, which means more potential chances at exceptional bases or bases that are very, very good to craft. Now, be very, very careful. You do not want to have any rarity on the actual map itself from any Precursor Tablets that you may or may not have added prior to the latest patch, which is where you actually have to use towers to give yourself rarity. So it has to be on a very clean map with like no rarity. Some of these are from pre-patch, so you'll see this one actually has rarity, so that is not one that we would use it on, and instead I would come over to one that has quantity and we would do something like this map. Ideally something with more quantity, but you know, this is something that we could do. And this is going to give us monster level 81. So this is perfect. This is exactly what we want, other than if we had the additional cleanse modifier at the very top that would say +1 to monster level. That's going to give us tier 82, which is the pinnacle. That's the aim, the goal that you're actually searching for. And so once we've done that and checked that there's got no rarity, that's absolutely fine. But before you go into the maps, make sure that you do your Atlas passives, because there's some important things to be looking at when we're doing this method. And so Atlas passives, we are looking at just getting as much pack size, as many rare monsters, as many magic monsters as absolutely humanly possible, whilst also boosting all of the explicit modifiers on our Waystones, which are going to grant us more pack size and stuff like that. Which is obviously what we want as well. So as you can see, we are running all of these pack size nodes alongside the unstable energies. So this is you know, kind of one of those that you don't have to take if you're kind of difficult with doing T16s. But at this point in the league, you should be absolutely fine doing that. If you're watching this later on down the line, maybe, you know, you're absolutely fine as well. Or maybe you would think about taking this off. Then we come down for explicit effect of the modifiers, or increased effect of explicit modifiers on our Waystones. Coming down to 2% increased effect of explicit modifiers on your Waystone for each explicit modifier. So very beneficial. We've got all of the, we come up here to the Rogue Exiles. That's just because we need to path down to here. You could swap these out, but we don't want to go through any of these rarity nodes because we don't want any rarity in the build, hence why we have to come up and down. And then we're just going for quantity of precursor tablets found in maps and stuff like that. You could take it out but just simply for sustain of our precursor tablets. That's why I keep them in. And then just coming all the way down here for explicit modifiers, and then obviously all of these 2 zones for magic and rare monsters for the pack size as well. So that is basically that. However, there's something else that we want to do is you want to make sure that you are getting Waystones so that we can keep the sustain up, at least 1 or 2. And so you want to make sure that those Waystones don't have any instilled emotions on. So I take out Get Out of My Head, which gives the Waystones random instilled emotions, which we don't want because we want to put a pack size on. They might come with something that we can't use, and then a couple of slots or all of the slots are all taken up by random instilled emotions that are not useful, maybe even rarity ones, etc. So I take this off, and then with regards to Delirium, we are putting Delirium Fog in your map spawns 50% increase fracturing mirrors. This allows us to get more mobs because when you shatter them, they give you more Delirium monsters, so perfect. Delirium Fog in your map dissipate 30% slower, and then we've just got more reward types and stuff like that as well. So that is basically what I do for the Delirium. As far as the Atlas passives, we just went for additional strong boxes just because you can get researcher strong boxes and that sort of thing. Expedition, do whatever you want really, to be honest. You could go for the rare monsters and stuff, but I don't tend to do Expedition in any way. And then Breaches. So Breaches, we pretty much go for this sort of setup where we're going for Grasping Hands, Frantic Invasion, Crumbling Walls, and Interdimensional Assault. And then on the right hand side, this is just my typical ritual setup, which is going for He Approaches for the a chance of magic and rare mobs. And then we've got From the Mist for 2 additional packs of World Monsters, Tempting Offers, and that is pretty much the setup for that one. So that is juicing up our map even further with pack size, which is what we want. But then the most important thing you can do to increase your chances of getting some of the best exceptional bases is using Venter's Gamble. Now you might be thinking, okay, is that to get increased rarity or something? Obviously not, because we don't want any rarity. We're actually taking reduced rarity of items found. That is because this is one of the biggest things, because rarity, obviously if we can get negative rarity, this negative rarity is going to juice the maps up for those bases, because now that we have pack size, everything is basically going to drop either normal or magic, unless we take out a rare monster and then it has a little bit more rarity associated with a rare monster than like a magic monster, for example. So you may see rares occasionally, but reduced rarity combined with ingenuity is going to boost up our reduced rarity. So we're going to go into the minus figures, and then no extra rarity anywhere else on the build. We don't want it on a boots, helmet, and of course don't want it on the amulet. So that is basically what we're doing. Obviously, Venter's Gambles are difficult to use because they can have really crappy rolls on the reses. So ideally, you want to sort out those reses by just finding ones that have decent res, you know, in the pluses rather than the minuses, and then sort out the resistances with your helmet and your chest piece and your boots. And if you have gloves, unfortunately, I can't use gloves or a focus or anything because they're 2 unique ones which don't give any reses, but you can sort out your reses that way. And then ingenuity is going to boost up each one of these like modifiers on our ring, which is then going to reduce our rarity even further, allowing us, if we go into our actual rarity on the build, of minus 40%, which is what we want. Essentially at that point we can go into a map and we just farm through a load of mobs, and once you farm through a load of mobs you're gonna start seeing a lot of magic items and that sort of thing, and normal items as you're going through the map. And then that is basically all you do. Just keep rinsing and repeating that same process using the same reduced rarity, and you'll find a ton of exceptionals. Just an example, this is some of the exceptionals that I found just as I go through. And then obviously we've got some selling at the moment. I've sold a few as well as we've gone through. And not only that, you'll see actually that in the background you probably had some footage of what the actual maps look like. But recently we actually sold an exceptional golden charm for 300 exalt, which was, you know, just an exceptional charm that we found. They're very common when probably like once every 2 maps you'll probably find an exceptional. Like, if I'm being conservative, like that should be around the sort of mark where you'd expect one at least. Sometimes it's multiple exceptional bases within one map, but in addition to that, we are also looking for just good bases at level 82. So if we get level 82 bases, I'll drop them in as we can craft upon them. And then just in general, any level 81 wands, that is going to be where you can make some real money, because if they get +5 to lightning spell skills as a magic base wand, that is going to be crazy expensive. They are like 40 div for a +5 to lightning spell skills. They're a couple div, 5 div, something like that for a cold spell skills wand. And if they get a good additional modifier as well on them, on the prefix, you can end up with them being worth 10 div, 12 div, 15 div, etc. If you get an exceptional wand with +5, you are talking massive money. Even if you just get an exceptional wand to begin with, very, very big money as well. And so these are the sorts of things that you should just be chucking in, reforging any of these that end up with bad mods, because they typically end up with bad mods. Reforging them, you get another chance of getting them. And then obviously if you've got some really good like T1s, you can always recombinate to try and get some really good modifiers as well. And then try and craft them up to a rare and see if you can roll the dice that way. That's a way that I've made quite a bit of money as well, just picking up the rares and bases that we found and kind of going about it that way. So that is kind of the method. It's really, really good for farming exceptional bases. Is it the most pinnacle effective way for you to spend your time in the game? I'm not entirely sure, because it is heavily dependent on the base that you get. Does it get sockets on it? But over time, what you'll find is that the exceptional bases are actually very, very frequent. It's just, do you get the good exceptional bases? But if you do get a good exceptional base, you are just skyrocketing like the amount of money that you make per hour. And it's really about just consistently doing it until you get a good piece. It's not kind of gambling, because you are just going to get one. It's just like, in order for it to pay off, you do have to just do it quite a lot, rather than like, you know, there's no one trick pony with anything within PoE. You can't just do one map and suddenly you've made a load of money. Sometimes you get good luck, sometimes you get bad luck, but on average, if you keep doing it, you're going to make probably like 10 div an hour. There's also currency drops that you get whilst you're going through your maps, just as normal. And because it's a high tier map, you also have good chances of getting just decent currency. Researchers strong boxes, that sort of thing is also going to give you money as well. So you're just basically doing that throughout, and you're going to make money on every map that you do. It's just whether you make big money on every map that you do is just dependent on the exceptional bases. So with that being said, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully it was concise and informative enough and gone through everything that you need to know about trying to farm exceptional bases within PoE 2 from the latest league. So with that being in mind, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.